All right, let's continue the conversation with the two-time Super Bowl champ and host of All Things Covered podcast, our guy Bryant McFadden. BMAC, again, just to rehash here, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores filing a class action lawsuit against the NFL. So just on the surface, this is one man standing up, taking on 32 NFL owners. What do you make of the allegations levied here on Tuesday?
I'm surprised because Brian Flores is a coach that can actually coach real good. Quality sound guy, leader. He has displayed leadership ability, being able to turn the Dolphins organization around in a short amount of time. And for him to go to this level, understanding and knowing potentially this may end his coaching career, this means a lot to him. And it seems like, Joe, we talk about this every offseason. Every offseason. I'm tired of talking about it and not seeing any change. Think about this in 2006 when we had a monumental year for African-American head coaches where two coaches that were black led their teams to a Super Bowl, Tony Dungy and Lovie Smith. At that time in 2006, we had 5 African-American head coaches. Currently, we have 1. We have 1. So we're going in the wrong direction. And seeing what was, put out today for all of us to read, we're not making any progress.
BMAC, you make a great point there in terms of the numbers, the head coaches, the direction we are headed, and I want to go that direction because there's plenty to unpack here from a legality standpoint, but you always give us a great feel for the player perspective. Having watched the league evolve from when you were playing to where we are today, progress has been made in terms of player safety, retirement benefits, other issues have been tended to, but when it comes to minority representation in positions of power, we again, as you said, find ourselves having these types of conversation every single hiring cycle. In your opinion, what needs to change to get it to where it needs to be?
You hit on it, Joe. They've made progress within the game, right? The rules of the game, how the game is played. But they have yet to make progress when it comes to the NFL with non-on-the-field issues. That's the thing. They got to find a way to understand and know what you're doing wrong. And the hiring process, the Rooney Rule, I love the Rooneys. Quality sound family. They do things the right way. But they need to do away with the Rooney Rule because now all it does is basically waste quality candidates when it comes to being African American. You're wasting their time because you're bringing them in only to fulfill a requirement, an obligation. The text messages between Bill Belichick and Brian Flores prove that. If you already know who you're hiring, why are you wasting this man's time flying him up, knowing we're just going to go through the motions? But think about this, Joe. How many black coaches go through this year in and year out, every offseason? We see candidates getting an opportunity that are black. They don't have a shot. They don't have a shot at all because these organizations, they're just fulfilling an obligation, which is unfair. It's unfair, it's not right, it's unfair, and it clearly proves that the steps we need to make, we have yet to make any. Because right now, we have 1 black coach. You have 5 openings. It's safe to say those 5 openings probably won't be filled by any African-American head coach.
We do still have names out there. Todd Bowles, I know Byron Leftwich has been linked to some other opportunities out there. We will see how the rest of this hiring cycle plays out, but your points are well received. There have been allegations and claims made on multiple fronts, including the fact that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered further payment to Flores to throw games back in 2019. We're now talking about the competitive balance and sanctity of the sport. You bring in the sports wagering side of things, and we're having a completely different conversation here. We know that bottom feeders are always trying to better their draft position, but when you bring the element of payment into things, it changes things. Were you shocked by that claim, or is this something that you've heard bounced around before around the league?
You know what? I never heard about anything regarded to losing on purpose, but I was shocked to see the potential financial payment that the head coach would have received if he lost a ball game. Verbally hearing it, right, it's going to make you look like, okay, you tripping. But you're telling me if I do this, I get paid X amount of dollars to lose? Now, granted, the thing about that situation, Joe, the players, I highly doubt they were aware of that request coming from the owner. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, if Brian Flores wanted to do that and receive the financial benefits, clearly watching the game, you can kind of see exactly what's going on when teams remove certain players from their ball game, guys that can help them win. But the integrity, no question. Now you have to think about other teams that are bad teams towards the end of the season that know if they lose a ball game, they improve their draft stock. How many other organizations or owners do things like this? I never heard of that before. Fortunate enough for me, Joe, I've always been a part of good teams. So we never had to worry about trying to tank to get a draft spot because we were always kind of in the playoffs. But think about some of the teams that are the usual suspects, or bottom dwellers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is this something that happens often? And it might not be, but just hearing this today, it makes you think, like, how many other teams, owners may do the same thing?
Yeah, 32 different cultures across the league, as you put it here, and the culture of that league is now being brought into question. B-Mac, we appreciate your perspective as always here on HQ.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a look at a statement from the Giants. It reads, "We are pleased and confident with the process that resulted in the hiring of Brian Dable. We interviewed an impressive group of diverse candidates. The fact of the matter is Brian Flores was in the conversation to be our head coach until the 11th hour. Ultimately, we hired the individual that we felt most qualified to be our next head coach," end quote.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.